Yo, what's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about Netflix's new miniseries, Dahmer, starring Evan Peters, which you may recognize mainly from American Horror Story. And this show's actually, produced, created, what you want to call it, by Ryan Murphy, which also had his hands in a lot of the American Horror Story episodes, maybe even all of them, I don't really know. But yeah, it's from a really good group of people. It's about a really touchy and crazy subject of a serial killer who ate his victims. That's about as far as my knowledge of Jeffrey Dahmer goes until now that I have watched this entire show. And I gotta say, it's a really good show. It's fucked up though, that's for sure. But Evan Peters killed it. There's a lot of other good actors in it that maybe you've seen before, maybe you haven't. The black girl cop from Reno 911's in it, plays a good role. There's a bunch of unique characters in it, and I learned a lot. All this went down during a time period where I wasn't even alive yet, so I wasn't there for it. It's not really as vivid for me. You know, I've read some stories, that's about it. And now that this show's out, anyone can kind of relive it. Not that it's something you'd want to relive, but you can kind of get more details about what exactly happened and how fucked up this guy really was. It's honestly crazy, but once you see how his childhood was and what his family put him through, you kind of start to realize why something like this was able to happen. You can say maybe he was born fucked up, or maybe things made him fucked up, but it's up to you. You gotta watch the show though. And I'm not gonna try to tell you every single thing that happened, but then there's some things that are just general knowledge because this is a case that's happened long ago. So I can tell you about some stuff, I would say, and it won't be a spoiler. So one of the main things that surprised me about this show is the fact that they really did not focus on the fact that he ate his victims. They mentioned it a couple of times here and there, and they showed him eating meat once, but didn't specifically say that he was eating one of his victims. But you kind of had to realize, okay, that's what he's doing. And then the neighbors would catch him stinking up the apartment complex because they knew he was doing something, but they didn't know what. And I guess that's about as far as it goes when it comes to him eating his victims. They didn't show him chopping them up and eating them nonstop. It wasn't focused on that. It was kind of focused on his personal life, how he was able to gather all of his victims, and how he was able to not get caught for so long. And it basically comes down to a couple of things. For one, it happened during a time period where some groups of people just were not recognized as equals. And I'm mainly talking about gay people and black people. All of his neighbors in one of the places he lived were all black. So anytime they called the cops didn't really take him seriously. Maybe they'd show up, maybe they wouldn't. And they could get hundreds of calls. They didn't really give a fuck because they were black, and it was honestly fucked up. I'm glad we don't live in a time that's terrible like that. I mean, it's still, there's some inequality, but that's gonna always be the case, I think. But back then it was really messed up. Another thing is the gay people. I didn't realize, this is how little I knew about Jeffrey Dahmer. I didn't know that he was gay, and that's the type of victims he targeted was gay guys at the club. Learned that, and it was honestly, yeah, if you're sensitive to watching gay shit on movies, you're gonna hate this show. But I can watch anything. It's just a show. Film is film. It doesn't make you gay for watching it. But he was definitely homosexual, and there's nothing wrong with that. But back then it was a huge shocker. For one, everyone was worried about HIV and AIDS and stuff. And for two, there just wasn't as many gay people. Now I feel like there's propaganda that's getting pushed out there. There's social media where people are posting their lives, and more people are seeing gay people. More people are considering, am I gay? They're thinking shit like that, even though they never had that thought in their life. Maybe that wouldn't have happened back in this time before there was the internet and stuff, but we have the internet, and now it's more common. But back then it was a rarity for someone to like someone of the same sex, especially girls. I think it was even less popular, but guys liking guys was a little bit more common, but it was frowned upon. It was not something that people accepted for the most part. Even some families struggle to accept their own kids. But even though there's a lot of gay shit in this, it's still so good. They don't show Dahmer fucking his victims. It's not like that. It's not a porno. But there's a lot of touching and flirting and just weird shit. And I did not expect that shit at all. And Evan Peters, stood strong and killed it. He's done so many good roles over the years. The very first time I ever remember seeing Evan Peters was in the movie Never Back Down. He was that nerdy kid that got the shit kicked out of him in some underground fight and then inspired the main character to like become a fighter to take up for him because it just wasn't fair. This guy wanted to be a fighter, but he just couldn't. Evan Peters was a bitch in that movie. And, you know, from then on out, he just kept working his way up in acting, and you know, he landed in American Horror Story, and that's really, I think, what set him off. He's also in some X-Men movies and some other Marvel films as an X-Men character, but when I think of him, I think of American Horror Story, and he has had so many different characters, and they're all good every single time. They're like characters that like I really fuck with. You know, he had the one season where he was like a leader of a cult and kind of like Trump obsessed almost, and that was amazing. He had one where he had lobster hands. Like, what the fuck? There's just so many good roles from him, and Dahmer's one of his best. So the fact that it stands so strong against all those other ones just tells you how good the show is. I know some people might be against it because how gruesome it is and how fucked up it is, but history is history. You've got to accept the fact that some things happen and not just ignore it. And you know, especially there's some people I know that are obsessed with serial killers and learning about murder cases, not because they want to become a serial killer, but because they're fascinated by it. And it's so obscure that it's entertaining. And when you're learning about that through books or documentaries, that's one thing, but whenever they create a show like this, it seems real, and it's very well done. It's just miles better than anything else you can really get. So I'd say that this is the best Jeffrey Dahmer story, but I think there's some people that do not like it for certain reasons. Mainly it would be people such as the families that had victims and they're having to relive that shit now. They may not like it. They may like it because those victims are getting some more recognition finally, but they also have to relive the trauma. So that's the difficult part. And then there's some people who just can't stand the idea of gore, or they're so closed-minded that they just can't find entertainment in anything in life, and they're just negative motherfuckers. They're gonna hate this shit too, of course. Hell, you might hate it just because it's not for you. But me personally, I love Dahmer. I watched it in about a weekend it took me. Me and my girlfriend watched it, and she and I both loved it. You know, there was a couple of times where it got slow, but mostly it was just entertaining throughout the whole thing. I learned so much about the case. It's 100% worth watching. It's on Netflix. You can check it out now. But yeah, I think that's about all I have to say because I don't want to spoil anything else. I just want to say Evan Peters is a beast. He deserves an award for that because I can only imagine, you know, where he had to be mentally to prepare himself for this role. I'm sure he's, you know, right back to normal now because that's what actors do. They know how to switch back and forth between personalities, but you know, some average person who doesn't understand how that works may look at this and be like, wow, is he really like that in real life? I'm sure he's a chill dude. He's killing it. I can't wait to see what the next role is that he plays in a show or a movie. Hopefully it's better than this one because I always am looking for something new to watch. And I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite actors or anything, but like, he's sick. He's really good. And he's played a lot of different serial killers over the years. So if you got anything you want to talk about this show, drop it down in the comments. I'll get back with you. If you got any questions, let me know. And I'll provide a link to a website that you can watch this show for free. If you don't have Netflix, say you can't afford the subscription, you can check it out on Flixtor.to. I'll have that linked down at the bottom of this video. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you another one soon. Peace out.